Coming up in today's newscast, the Iron Dome missile defense system intercepts a rocket from Gaza overnight. The Shin Bet releases more information on the Jewish-Israeli miners suspected of murdering a Palestinian woman in October. And a breakthrough Israeli technology boasts some incredible results in the fight against cancer. According to Israeli defense forces in the south, Air Force fighter jets and helicopters attacked several terror targets at a Hamas training camp in the northern Gaza Strip overnight, following a rocket fired from Gaza into Israel. The Iron Dome missile defense system above Ashkelon intercepted the rocket a little after 3 a.m. on Monday to the sound of red alert sirens. No injuries were reported. But regardless, the IDF holds Hamas responsible for any incursion of Israeli sovereignty. And this latest attack comes less than a day after a drone-shaped device and a large bunch of balloons carrying explosives landed in the carrot field in southern Israel on Sunday morning. When police bomb sappers examined the drone lookalike, which bore the name of Gaza's engineering college on the side, it exploded. Thankfully, however, police reported no injuries, and the IDF struck 2 Hamas military targets in the Strip in response to this attack as well. But this is far from the only attack of this type. Hundreds, if not thousands, of incendiary balloons and kites have landed in Israel, and nearly 3,000 acres, or 8 square miles, of forest and agricultural land in the Gaza periphery have been burnt up since March 2018, when the so-called March of Return riots began. Millions of shekels in damages have also been reported. So returning to his previous criticisms then, former Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman of the Israel Beitenu party took to Twitter to blast the Netanyahu government again for having no consistent policy, no vision, and no plan to cut off Hamas's terror. Quote, "There is no initiative. They barely react," end quote. Lieberman also chastised the policy of feeding Hamas with one hand and supposedly reprimanding them with the other. It was for these reasons that Lieberman first reportedly dropped out of the coalition in November as well, following the launching of hundreds of rockets from the Strip into Israel in just 24 hours. It was the largest Hamas missile barrage since the 2014 Gaza war. In a surprise announcement from the Palestinian Authority's Civilian Affairs Administration, effective Monday morning, PA personnel at the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt will no longer be available. And the pulling of Palestinian Authority staff will result in the complete shutdown of the border crossing, despite Egypt promising to keep it open just a few weeks ago. Gaza terror group Hamas has since assumed control over the Rafah terminal, though it is still likely to close, at least temporarily. And according to a statement released by PA officials, the move comes in response to, quote, "the brutal practices of the de facto gangs, aka Hamas, in our beloved Gaza Strip." Indeed, PA President Mahmoud Abbas's Fatah party accuses Hamas of having arrested at least 500 Fatah members in the Strip over the past few days, including just this weekend when Hamas arrested 5 men allegedly in connection with the destruction of property at the PA's Broadcasting Corporation facility in Gaza. Initially, PA sources placed the blame for the raid and destruction of equipment on Hamas, but Hamas arrested the 5 suspects, saying that they were disgruntled ex-PA employees who stopped getting their salaries recently. Then, additionally, fueling tensions is the fact that the Fatah and Hamas reconciliation is still slowly advancing, if at all. And this latest PA pullout from Rafah is seen by Hamas in Gaza as just another jab taken towards the Islamist group.
هذه الخطوة هي انتقامية من قبل محمود عباس من أهله في قطاع غزة ومن مشروع المقاومة، وهي انقلاب على كل الجهود المصرية لتوحيد الصف الداخلي الفلسطيني.
Egypt, which has been mediating the reunification efforts between Gaza and Ramallah, has not yet commented on the move. A Chadashot TV News report Sunday night has just revealed that not 1 but 3 delegations of local Iraqi leaders have made secret trips to Israel over the past few months. The 15 or so delegates met with Israeli academic and government leaders, visited the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial, and more, all while Iraq and Israel are still technically at war with one another. Well, joining us now with more on the topic is Dr. Martin Sherman, the founder and executive director of the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies. Dr. Sherman, as always, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me again.
Okay, so first of all, what do you think these meetings mean for Israeli-Iraqi relations? Do you think that maybe we could end the war between us?
Well, it's probably quite a surprising announcement to learn about these frequent visits. I hope I'm not being overly skeptical about the ability of Israel to develop ongoing relations with the Arab countries. We must remember that Israel and Iraq have a very unhappy history. Iraq has participated in several wars against Israel. It supports the boycott, the Arab League boycott against Israel. Israeli passports are not recognized by Iraq. And I'm not quite sure what the public sentiment there is. It wasn't long ago that Saddam Hussein was in power there and firing rockets onto Israeli cities. So I would say that the jury is still out on this issue. I think perhaps one of the interesting elements is that it seems to undermine prevailing wisdom that developing relations with the Arab world is dependent on a breakthrough with the Palestinian issue. This seems to be a thesis that is becoming less and less valid, and the Palestinian issue is being sidelined not only by much of Israeli politics, but by many countries in the Arab world who seem to, at least on the surface, seem to be exploring developing ties with Israel, despite the lack of any progress, in fact, perhaps even some regression on the Palestinian front.
I see. All right, so now I want to take maybe a more cynical approach then, because you said, maybe you're cynical, maybe you're an optimist. So as a cynic, what do you think Iraq wants out of this relationship, and what do you think Israel is going to get? What do you think Israel wants out of this relationship?
Well, yeah, I think the answer to that is more or less what you see on the surface. I'm sure Iraq, as Netanyahu said recently, the Arab world could make good use of Israeli technology in the water, energy, communications, etc., etc. But on the other hand, there's a lot of technology they can buy without going to Israel. It's not that the United States and Europe and
right.
Scandinavia and Canada and places like that can't supply a great deal of technology. So there's still question marks. Why do they need Israel? As I say, I would be very wary about putting too much trust in these relationships at the moment until we have greater proof that animosity is beginning to die down, not only among the political leaders, but among the public as well. So any change in sentiment would seem to be more durable, because as you've seen in the Arab world, things can turn on a dime within a second. I don't think many people a few years ago would have predicted the situation in a number of Arab countries, like Syria, Yemen, Libya, and you never know. All these countries that are candidates for approaching Israel, not necessarily Iraq, but many in the Gulf countries. These are to put it politely, these are already anachronistic regimes, because they're based.
Well, I hate to cut you off, but unfortunately we do have to end it here. But yeah, I want to thank you for sharing your insights again, as always. And on that note, again, we'll have to keep in mind a lot of the things going forward with Iraq. As you said, there are a lot of things, a lot of interests, as always, that they have privately and publicly, and we really don't know publicly what they want. So we'll keep an eye on this. And Dr. Sherman, we hope to have you back when more information is out.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
United States National Security Advisor John Bolton arrived in Israel this weekend to meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over the U.S. troop withdrawal from Syria and other pressing issues. Netanyahu hosted the senior aide to U.S. President Donald Trump at his residence in Jerusalem, and the two held a press conference in which Netanyahu praised the U.S. for recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital and for backing Israel at international forums such as the UN. But Netanyahu then also called on the American administration to recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights.
We'll go up to the Golan Heights, again, depending on the weather. The Golan Heights is tremendously important for our security. And I think that when you're there, you'll be able to understand perfectly why we'll never leave the Golan Heights and why it's important that all countries recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. I've discussed this with the President, and I hope I have a chance to show it directly to you tomorrow on our visit. And if we can't fly there, I'll say it again to you.
Speaking after the Prime Minister, Bolton then said that he believed that under Netanyahu and Trump's leadership, we have the best U.S.-Israel relationship in our history. He also noted that it was a critical time for security in the Middle East, alluding to Iran's ambitions, reiterating the U.S.'s determination that it does not require nuclear capabilities. He also addressed the U.S. troop withdrawal from Syria, saying that the United States wants to make sure that the defense of Israel and our other friends in the region is absolutely assured.
For the United States, A sovereign nation's ability to defend itself is the ultimate mark of sovereignty. And President Trump has said repeatedly that he backs Israel's right to self-defense. He says it proudly and unequivocally. I would just say to any nation, whether in this region or not in this region, that has any doubt about America's support for Israel's self-defense, they better think about it again.
After over a week of speculations, the Shin Bet security forces revealed that the 5 Jewish miners who were detained are all suspects in the murder of 47-year-old Palestinian woman Aisha al-Ghabi. Ghabi was struck in the head with a stone in the passenger seat of her car while driving with her husband in the West Bank on October 12th. The Shin Bet revealed that the arrested boys are suspected of terror offenses, including murder, and the agency also revealed that the 5 miners are students at the Pri Haaretz Yeshiva High School in the West Bank settlement of Rechelim. 3 of the suspects were arrested last week, while 2 additional youths were arrested over the weekend. And the Shin Bet further released 2 pieces of evidence showing the dangerous and, quote, extreme anti-Zionist nature of the miners. A video depicting Jewish teens burning an Israeli flag, as well as a flag with a swastika drawn on it, along with the phrase "Death to Zionists," that was uncovered in one of the suspects' homes. The Shin Bet also said that on the Saturday morning after the attack in question, a group of far-right activists from the Yitzchak settlement drove to the yeshiva, thereby violating the rules of Shabbat, and the reason they say was so that they could coach the suspected students on how to withstand Shin Bet interrogations. Further, since the initial arrest of the 5 miners, the Shin Bet said that it has had to deal with a smear campaign against it by interested parties, adding that all its investigations were done under the law and with oversight. Meanwhile, the widower of Aisha al-Ghabi, the victim, spoke out on the attack. In an interview with Chadashot News, he said, quote, "It won't bring her back, but I would like the killers to be arrested and put in jail so that there's justice, and so something like this doesn't happen again." Following months and months of negotiations and delays, it seems Israel will not be able to complete the $500 million sale of 12 F-16 Barak aircrafts to Croatia. And IDF Director General Udi Adam is now set to arrive in Croatia on Wednesday to inform the Croatian government in person of the deal's cancellation. The 2 countries signed on the sale last March, and Croatia has since given Israel until January 11th to get final permission from the United States State Department for the sale. Israel requires permission from the U.S. in order to resell the fighter jets to any third party. But since originally buying them from the United States nearly 30 years ago, Israel added advanced electronics and radar detection systems to the fleet of F-16s, and the United States would only sign off on the deal as long as Israel removed those additions. Those additions, however, were the main selling point for Croatia's defense ministry, and without them, the country doesn't want the F-16s at all. Knowing this, Israeli officials have doggedly been trying to change the United States' mind, having discussed the sale with many American officials, including with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in Brazil just last week. But speaking to Ynet News, Israeli officials reportedly said that they believe the U.S. thinks Israel will unjustly profit from the deal, and that's why it's essentially the only thing Israel asked for from the United States recently that Israel didn't reportedly get. So now, despite allegedly giving assurances that the U.S. would eventually okay the sale, IDF Director General Adam and International Defense Cooperation Directorate head Michel Ben Baruch have the unfortunate job of relaying the bad news in Zagreb. In a shocking new report, Israel's Central Bureau of Statistics revealed this week that more than half of Israel's new immigrants are not recognized as Jewish. According to the numbers, more than 50% of the people that got Israeli citizenship under the law of return are classified as lacking a religion by the Interior Ministry. And ILTV's Joy Gavijon is here with more on the report.
Thanks, Aaron. So according to the information released, 17,700 immigrants of the 32,600 that arrived to Israel in 2018 are not considered Jewish. And this is, as you said, more than half.
Something that brings back the debate about the Jewish identity, i.e. who's considered a Jew and who's not.
Yes, and more importantly, who is in charge of making that decision. And the truth is that the religious life here in Israel is controlled by the Rabbanut, or the Orthodox Rabbinate. And even though the law of return establishes that anyone with a Jewish heritage, even a grandparent, is entitled to Israeli citizenship, that doesn't guarantee being recognized as a Jew.
Right. Well, the Rabbanut only recognizes those who are Jewish under strict halakha or Jewish law, which means, being born to a Jewish mother or going through an Orthodox conversion, right?
Exactly. But according to the report, most of the new immigrants that arrived last year are originally from Russia, Ukraine, and the U.S., and they all have some kind of Jewish identity or history, but they were still registered as non-religious.
Even though many of them consider themselves Jewish, grew up Jewish,
yes.
claim Judaism on their Aliyah applications, etc.?
Right, yes.
Okay, well, can you talk about this, a little bit more and how this affects these citizens in practice?
Sure. For one, in Israel, there is no such thing as civil marriage, and the only way to get married is under the guidelines of the Ravanut. So what happens, because the Ravanut doesn't consider all these citizens as Jewish, they can't get married unless they go through an Orthodox conversion. And even if they already converted or grew up in a traditional but non-Orthodox Jewish household, they can get married. So we're talking about around 400,000 people, mostly from the ex-Soviet Union, who are currently living in Israel and are trapped in this situation without having access to a civil right like getting married or divorced.
All right, so, so they're Jewish enough to get the citizenship according to the law of return, but not Jewish enough to get married.
Yes, and Rabbi Shaul Ferber, the director of the advocacy group team, talked to JTA and accused the government of creating this problem, mostly because the Orthodox rabbinate holds the monopoly in conversions, and it's an internally elected body.
Which in turn sounds like it's creating a demographic problem, because there are many converts whose conversion isn't Orthodox and thus unrecognized then.
Right, and Ferber actually also explained that with numbers, saying that considering that the Jewish people constitutes 75% of the Israeli population, if we eliminate all the people who are not recognized as Jewish, the amount of Jews in Israel would be less than 65%.
All right, well, I'm sure that statistic and the fear of losing the Jewish majority alone might galvanize some sort of change here in the Israeli public, but I suspect it will be a very difficult and slow change to swallow no matter what. So Joy, keep us updated, and thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Aaron.
According to new reports, Israeli Paralympic swimmers are being denied entry to Malaysia to participate in the upcoming World Paraswimming Championships. This despite months of efforts to secure visas by the directors of the Israel Paralympic Committee. Over 600 swimmers from 70 different countries are set to arrive in Malaysia in July, but due to the lack of diplomatic ties between Israel and the Muslim-majority nation, Israel is not included in this list thus far. Israel is still working hard to get in, however, as the results of the event will affect world standings ahead of the 2020 Paralympics in Tokyo. Nisim Saspotas, the chairman of the Israeli Olympic Committee, then told Ynet that in principle everyone says it will work out, but we've yet to receive an invitation or visa confirmation. And Saspotas and others in Israel are still reaching out to the international committees for help in the matter, having already reportedly procured letters of support from the International Paralympics Committee, the European Paralympics Committee, the Olympic Athletes Committee, and more. Finally, unfortunately, this incident is the latest in a series of sporting snafus in which Israeli athletes were completely or partially barred from competing under their Israeli banners. Only more recently have Israelis been able to participate in Arab and Muslim stages like in Abu Dhabi and Indonesia. And in February, Israel's weightlifting and fencing teams will attend competitions in the UAE after finally being granted visas by the Arab Gulf nation not long ago. Pink Floyd's Roger Waters may still be advocating for the boycott of Israel, but it looks like not all of his followers are in agreement. A Pink Floyd cover band has just defied pressure from the band's original frontman by performing for a packed crowd in Tel Aviv over the weekend.
The UK Pink Floyd Experience almost ended up dropping its plans to perform in Israel after an intense campaign against a performance by Waters himself. But in the end, they managed to make the concert happen, and without actually playing any of Roger Waters' music. That's because the Israeli Pink Floyd tribute band Echoes played all of Waters' songs themselves, a whopping 10 out of the 19 tracks played at the show. The Israeli entertainment site Mako even said that the Israeli group sounded better than the English group, although that's clearly a matter of opinion. Now, the UK group was previously forced to scrap their 3 planned performances in Israel following intense boycott pressures from the BDS movement and Roger Waters. And the anti-Israel activist Waters set his protest in motion by writing a post against Israel on Facebook and then making public the personal phone numbers of each of the members in the tribute band. Luckily for Israeli fans, though, the musician and promoter Ziv Rubinstein from Ego East Productions fought hard to make at least one of the performances happen by meeting with each of the tribute band members individually. Quote, "I found myself doing diplomacy for Israel, but it wasn't political," he said. "This isn't politics. We're musicians, and we have to separate music and politics." Pink Floyd is a beloved band in Israel despite the sentiments of its creator, and Roger Waters is infamously known for publicly harassing musicians who plan on performing in Israel.
Speaking of music, since winning last year's Eurovision Song Contest, most people have heard her song and most importantly know her name. Netta Barzilai made Israel beyond proud when she won the contest, ultimately bringing the Eurovision to the Holy Land in 2019. And now she just posted her first teaser for her latest song, And Al TV's Emmanuel Kadosh has more on this.
Thanks, Aaron. Well, it's no secret that Netta has made crazy headline waves all over the world for both her women empowering lyrics and her I can't be judged attitude. And it's been almost 8 months since she took first place at the Eurovision in Lisbon. And now she's teasing to the world her first post-Eurovision song. Now, when I say tease, I unfortunately don't mean we even hear a single note of it, but instead she shared that the song will be coming out February 1st. She will finally release her new original song titled Basa Sababa.
So, okay, so wait, the title is in Hebrew. You know, does that mean that the song is going to be in Hebrew as well?
Actually, the song is said to be in English, but the name is sort of a Hebrew slang derived from Arabic and pretty much translates to bummer great, I guess you could say. You can't really translate it 100%. If you knew Hebrew, you would understand. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Basa Sababa is kind of hard to translate. But, all right, so is there anything else that you can tell us about the new and much anticipated release?
So not much information specifically has come out, unfortunately, other than a few reports stating that the song was penned by Netta, along with songwriter Stav Beggar and Avshalom Ariel, and Stav also took part in writing Toy. And in addition, the song is slated to be released on the same day as the music video, for which was shot in Kiev last year. So it's going to be pretty exciting to hear and to see what this song has in store for us. You know, since her big Eurovision win, Netta has been performing all over the world, bringing out crazy crowds at shows across Europe. So she really has built kind of like a fan base and a following. So people are really, really excited about this one, and not just Israelis.
Yeah, no, you can count me as one of these people for sure.
Me too.
Who, you know, I'm very excited to hear this new song. I can't wait to have you back in the studio as well, actually, when it does come out, so we can jam out a little bit.
Definitely.
Until then, thanks, Manuel.
Thank you.
After 15 years in bureaucratic limbo, the incredible cancer-killing technology developed by Alpha Tau Medical is finally set to advance their human clinical trials later this year.
The breakthrough technology created through the work of Tel Aviv University professors Yona Kesari and Yitzhak Kelsen has been dubbed the Alpha Dart, and it takes advantage of alpha radiation that can kill cancer cells without harming the surrounding tissues. In fact, that's what DART stands for, diffusing alpha emitters radiation therapy. And in initial studies, all the patients who received this therapy had reductions in their tumors, with 70% of cases showing cancerous tumors being eliminated completely. Well, 12 peer-reviewed papers and thousands of animal trials later, Alpha Tau has started in human trials on SCC tumors, a form of skin cancer, and on CMN cancers as well, with partners in Italy, New York, and Montreal. And now, additional trials on patients suffering from pancreatic, prostate, vulvar, cervical, renal, colon, and breast cancer are all set to begin in 2019 as well. And the hopes are high, with Alpha Tau CEO Uzi Sofer telling Israel 21C that, quote, "We can treat any kind of solid tumor, including cancers, where there is no other chance and this is the patient's last chance to live," end quote. Finally, making the treatment even more attractive is again the fact that alpha radiation is faster and safer than conventional beta or gamma radiation treatments. According to an Alpha Tau press release in November, the company explained that the Alpha DART system delivers high-precision alpha radiation that is released when radioactive substances decay inside the tumor. The short-range alpha particles effectively kill the cancer cells while sparing the surrounding healthy tissue.
The Alpha DART has many potential advantages. We can already see that it is effective, and we have seen that it actually cures and kills tumors. So first thing, we know it works. The second thing we see is its toxicity is very small. As of now, and this is a big advantage over radiation, this has much less toxicity than any other radiation that exists now. It is also unique in the fact that its biology equivalent dose is much higher than we have to offer, meaning photons and protons, making it, in one hand, more effective, and the second hand, less toxic.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Pink Floyd frontman Roger Waters used to be synonymous with amazing tunes, but unfortunately, at least in Israel, he's now become known as the face of musical BDS. So today's word is metoav, meaning infamous. Now, a lot of people are metoavim, or infamous, and for many, many reasons. Infamous, by the way, means well-known, but for bad reasons, like how rapper Drake is now metoav, or infamous, for groping an underage girl on stage during a concert. Or how the leaders of the Women's March are infamous, or metoavot, for their exclusion of Jews and their failure to condemn anti-Semitism and anti-Semites like Louis Farrakhan, who is also metoav. So just keep this in mind next time you hear a big name. He or she may be a celebrity to some, while metoav or infamous to others. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be partly cloudy and cool with a low of 52 or 11 degrees Celsius. And then tomorrow, you can expect rain, but a slight rise in temperatures to a high of around 62 or 17 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.69 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras. Thank you so much for watching.